Anyways, I have come on to this show tonight because I need to find the perfect pollinator for me this summer. Now, I need a pollinator to help with pollination. So this is a lovely picture of myself, and here is my anther. My anther produces something called pollen, and then my pollen must be carried to another flower's ovary to its unfertilized seeds so more flowers can be created. Now, I cannot simply get up and walk to another flower and give it my pollen. This is when I need the help of a pollinator. Now, anyways, I'm here on this show today so I can find the perfect pollinator for me. There's a few different things that pollinators look for in a flower, depending on their shape and color and their scent. And Eva will be back out in a second to tell you more about pollinators and pollination. All right, can I get a hand for Franny the flower? So can anybody give me some examples of pollinators? What about you in the pink too? Yes, a bee is a pollinator. And Lion King sweater? Butterflies are pollinators, that's right. And what about you? Bears are not pollinators. Maybe they could get some pollen stuck to their fur and spread it to other flowers, but might be a bit unlikely. What about you, the sweater in the back? Yep, bees. So here in British Columbia, we have the largest biodiversity of pollinators in Canada. So that means we have a lot of different types of pollinators that live here. So both flowers and pollinators have some different adaptations to make pollination as successful as possible. So pollinators will have things like pollen sacs and hairs to help pollen stick to their body. And then flowers and plants will produce a really sugar-rich liquid called nectar, which has a lot of energy and calories in it that pollinators find really attractive. They'll also have different shapes and scents to help attract pollinators to them. So I'll go get our first contestant of the night. He is the poster child of pollinators.
No.
Go back and forth.
Maybe.
Hello, everybody. I'm Barry the Bumblebee. So I'm a large and fuzzy bee, and when I fly around, I make a low-pitched buzz. Now, my size depends on my food and the nutrients and the role that I play in my colony. So we like to live in small colonies with worker bees and also a queen bee. Now, I don't mean to brag, but I'm a very, very good pollinator. So up here, you'll see this is a pollen sac. So the hairs on my legs are shaped in a certain way that can help as much pollen stick to them as possible. I also have an electrostatic charge to my body, which helps pollen stick to it. So that's kind of like when you guys take a balloon and you rub a balloon to your head and the balloon sticks to your head. That's what my body does with pollen. So I can also see ultraviolet light patterns that you guys can't see. So that means flowers will produce these secret patterns that will guide me to nectar that aren't visible to humans. I also love the smell and taste of nectar. So I'm not the only bee that lives here in Canada. This is called the Western honeybee, and it's a bee that was introduced into North America over 400 years ago, and it's also the only bee to make honey for human consumption, and it cannot be kept alive without the help of a beekeeper. There's also 800 different types of native bee species that are solitary and ground nesting bees that live here in Canada, and this is called a green metallic bee. Anyways, it's time for me to head out now.
pollinator that we're going to have to the stage is a very, very beautiful pollinator, and a lot of people will travel to meadows to see them in action. Swallowtail. I am an injured swallowtail butterfly, and I am an endangered species. And here in Manning Park is the only place in Canada that you can see an injured swallowtail in late June at Allison Pass. So I have a completely black body with black wings with a yellow stripe along the outside and blue spotting at the bottom. Now, there are 15,000 to 20,000 different species of butterflies in the world, and there's 192 different species of butterflies here in BC. So I like to pollinate flowers that have really large landing pads. So I have a really large body, and if I were to land on a small flower, I'd just fall off. So I need a large pad for me to fit my whole entire body onto. And I like flowers that are either red, orange, yellow, pink, purple, or blue. And I also like flowers that have hidden nectar that I could suck up with my proboscis. So my proboscis is my mouth, and it's pretty different than your guys's. So it coils up, and it's kind of like a straw that coils up against my head. And I'm able to stick it into flowers and suck up nectar like this. So as I go around drinking nectar with my proboscis, pollen collects on my little feet, and I can spread them from flower to flower. Now, my feet are pretty interesting too. I've got taste receptors on my feet, so I can taste which flowers I'm landing on to make sure I'm landing on the right flowers to drink nectar out of. So, as many of you guys know, as a butterfly, my life starts out as an egg that hatches into a caterpillar, and then as I grow, I will shed my skin 4 times before I enter the pupa, or the chrysalis stage, where I am closed in a chrysalis, and I undergo metamorphosis, and I turn from a caterpillar into a beautiful butterfly. So for us injured swallowtails, if the conditions are not right for us to emerge, we can wait until next season to emerge from our chrysalis. So imagine you're a male butterfly, and it's mating season. You're flying through the forest. It would be very, very hard for you to find another butterfly of the same species to mate with. So what we do is the males will fly to the tops of mountains, and the females will fly up there to meet them. Once they've mated, they'll fly down to a meadow and find a host-specific plant for them to lay their eggs on. And males will spend the majority of their time on the mountaintop defending their territory and courting females as they pass by. And us injured swallowtails are pretty defensive of their territory, so we'll have beaten up wings and rips in our wings from fighting and defending our territory all day. Anyways, it's time for me to head back up to the meadows now, so see you guys later. Can I get a hand for Indra the swallowtail? So the next pollinator that we're going to have to the stage is not always the most popular. We keep bringing her back because she gets the program views and she creates a little bit of drama, but I'll go get her.
Maisie the Mosquito. Now, I know that a lot of you might be surprised to see me up here today. A lot of people assume that I only drink blood, but that is actually incorrect. Most of the year I'm drinking nectar. In fact, only females drink your blood, and that's only for egg production. And also, for hardly any mosquito species drink blood. Only 200 out of the 3,500 mosquito species drink blood. And here in British Columbia, there's 46 different types of mosquitoes. Now, I am a very, very important pollinator. In cold areas such as the Arctic, where bees struggle to survive, I have a great sense of smell which helps me find nectar-rich flowers. And smells are very complex things, so there's a lot of different chemicals that are present in a scent. And I have a talent where I can smell all of the different chemicals in a scent. So some of the chemicals in the smell of your guys' blood are the same as those in flowers that I like to pollinate, such as the one-leaved rain orchid. And that's why I'm attracted to your guys' blood. So I like to pollinate a variety of orchids and also blueberries. So I like to pollinate blueberries because they have this really small opening that most pollinators cannot fit into. But I'm able to fit in there and suck up the nectar with my proboscis. I also like plants that grow near bogs and wet areas because that's where I like to lay my eggs and hang out. Anyways, it's time for me to head back to the swamp now, but don't worry, I've made some arrangements. Some of my friends will be hanging out to keep you guys company for the rest of the day and the rest of your camping trip as well. All right, could I get a hand for Maisie the Mosquito? I think that's the first time an audience have ever cheered for a mosquito. So the last pollinator that we're going to have on the show tonight is actually not an insect at all. Hello, everybody. I'm Rufus the hummingbird. Now I am a very, very lovely hummingbird. I've got an orange belly with a white chest and a very, very shiny red throat and a green back. Now, us hummingbirds are quite amazing creatures. Our heart can beat as fast as 1,260 beats per minute. Now, for comparison, a human resting heartbeat is 100 beats per minute. So our hearts can beat much, much faster than yours. Hummingbirds can also fly very, very fast. We could fly at a maximum speed of 79 kilometers an hour, and our relative, the Anna's hummingbird, who lives in the Fraser Valley, is the 10th fastest bird in the world. Hummingbirds, we can also hover by rotating our wings in a figure-8 motion. So we have very strong wings with a lot of muscle that makes us be able to do this. So, as you guys can see, we are pretty high energy birds, and we need a very high sugar diet to give us all of this energy, and that's why we seek very nectar-rich flowers. And hummingbirds are really, really great pollinators. So when we stick our beak into a flower to suck up the nectar, pollen collects on our beak and our face feathers.
And a lot of flowers have actually adapted to be pollinated mainly or completely by hummingbirds, and these flowers are called hummingbird flowers. So a hummingbird flower will be tubed shaped, which makes it challenging for other pollinators to get at the nectar, and they'll either be red or orange since we associate those colors with a high calorie reward. So some examples of hummingbird flowers are the monkey flower, the Sitka columbine, and we are also essential pollinators to the scarlet gilia. So the flowers we like also don't really have very floral scents because we aren't attracted to very smelly things. So since I'm a rufous hummingbird, that means that my favorite flower is the salmonberry flower. I love the salmonberry flower. It's the first flower to bloom in early spring in the Pacific Northwest, and I like to spend my winters in Panama. But when the salmonberry flower blooms, I'll fly more than 3,000 kilometers all the way to the west coast of British Columbia so I can suck up the delicious nectar in these flowers. So if you're hanging around and you see a hummingbird hovering around some salmonberries in early spring, it might be me at the end of my long journey. Anyways, it's time for me to head out now and drink some nectar. All right, guys, could I get a hand for Rufus Hummingbird?
Rufus.
So, before we get Franny back out here and you guys pick the best match for her this summer, I want you guys to kind of sharpen your pollinator flower matching skills. So I'm gonna choose a flower on the board, and then I want you guys to think about what each pollinator finds attractive and think which of these options would be the best pollinator for each flower. So we'll start with the cow's parsnip. So do you guys remember who likes white flowers that grows in clusters? Any guesses? What about you in the back with the green sweater there? Not the mosquito. What about you in the hood in the last row? Not the hummingbird. What about you with the blue puffy jacket there?
Bee.
Yeah, so the bee's gonna want to pollinate this flower because bees like white flowers, and they also like flowers that grow in clusters like this so they can collect a whole bunch of pollen at once. Now, who do you think would want to pollinate the blueberry flower? What about you in the purple puffy jacket?
Mosquito.
Yeah, so the mosquito really likes to pollinate these blueberry flowers because it has a small opening that other pollinators can't get into, and they also tend to grow by water, which is where mosquitoes like to hang out. Okay, now then, who do you think would want to pollinate this salmonberry flower? What about you in the blue sweater there?
The hummingbird.
Yeah, so the hummingbird is going to want to pollinate the salmonberry flower, and the Rufus's hummingbird will fly all the way from Panama, all the way to the west coast of British Columbia, over 3,000 kilometers to feed on this flower when it blooms in spring. There we go. And last but not least, do you guys have any guesses who could possibly pollinate the arnica? All right, what about you in the pink toque there in the second row? Yeah, so this guy's gonna be pollinated by the butterfly, and that's because butterflies like flowers that have really large landing pads that they can fit their entire bodies onto. They like flowers that are yellow, purple, or blue. Anyways, think about these features that the pollinators like and think about what Franny looks like. Think about who might be the best pollinator for Franny this summer. Hello again, everybody. I've returned. So, does anybody have any guesses who might be the best pollinator for me this year? What about you in the toque there?
A butterfly?
You know what? I think the butterfly would suit me very well. I think because I have this large landing pad that the butterfly can fit onto, and also butterflies like flowers that are kind of purplish and blue as well. So I'll go make sure to tell Indra the news that she is the winner of the show tonight. All right, guys. I'm glad that Freddy was able to find her summer romance. Now, as you can see, Franny and her friends, the pollinators, are very important to their ecosystems. So they help keep a natural balance in the forest and in meadows. And they're also really important for pollinating farms where we get all of our fruits and vegetables from as well. So they play some pretty important roles. Now, unfortunately, pollinators are in danger due to several reasons. So, as our cities continue to grow, there's less and less meadows and less room for pollinators to live. And also, harmful chemicals that are used in farming can sometimes hurt or even kill pollinators. And also, cats that are unattended outside can hunt hummingbirds and other birds as well. But what you guys can do is you can invite pollinators back into the city, and you can do that by growing either native grasses or weeds in your garden and in your lawn, or you could find native flowers that you could plant in your garden as well, and then you can invite pollinators back into the city and they could live right outside of your house. And you can also buy food that's grown without chemicals that hurt pollinators. And please just make sure to keep an eye on your cats outside to make sure they aren't hunting any hummingbirds as well. Anyways, that's the end of our program tonight. So tomorrow afternoon, we've got a program at 2 p.m. called Deer's Ears at the Rain Orchid Trail, where you guys can learn about how different animals observe the world and survive in the wild and different adaptations they have for that. And it's followed by a little bit of drawing time as well. In the evening, we've got a program called Things That Go Bump in the Night at 6:30 and also 7:30 as well. And if you guys want to, you can come up and ask me any questions. Yeah, have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
As you guys are leaving, I just want to